Because so much of what you'll be creating in Illustrator CS3 is visual in nature, the way in which the artwork is displayed on screen becomes a primary concern. Illustrator provides the flexibility with which you can change the view of your artwork to best suit your needs. Let's take a look at some of these options for changing the view of an illustration. To do this, I'm going to go up to the File menu and open an existing file. I'll go to the File menu and choose File Open. I'm going to navigate to my desktop and find the AI Lessons folder there, and navigate to the AI03 Lessons folder. Within that folder, I'm going to find the file that I want to open. It's called AI0301, and I'm going to open that by double-clicking on it. And what you'll see is a design for liner notes for a CD for an imaginary artist called Sketch. Now what I want to show you is that you have several options for changing the view of this document inside the illustration window. The first and most obvious place that you would go to change the view is the View menu at the top of your screen. So I'm going to go up to the View menu, and what you'll see is there's one choice at the top that says Outline. Now before I choose this, what I'm going to point out is that by default, Illustrator shows you all fill and stroke characteristics, all colors, all gradients, all meshes, all blends on the screen so that you can see what the actual document is going to look like. But this does create a problem sometimes. For example, if I zoom in on a specific area, you can see that it's taking a second or two to redraw the image as I zoom in. And the same happens when I zoom out. We'll talk about these techniques for zooming in and out in just a second. So what I'm going to do is go back up to the View menu and choose Fit in Window so that I can see the entire illustration again. And I'll go to the View menu and choose Outline from the top. When I switch view modes like this, you'll see that when I choose Outline, it actually gets rid of the fill and stroke characteristics, but only on screen. In other words, I'm not deleting the colors and the gradients and the blends that make up this file. But what this enables me to do is to zoom in and out much more quickly, and also to scroll from left to right or top to bottom, again, techniques that we'll talk about in just a second, much faster than if the fill and stroke and other characteristics were intact. When I'm done getting to the location that I want to get to, I can always go back to the View menu. I can also hit the toggle command, which is Control Y, and that will actually toggle me back and forth between different view modes. So there's Outline, I hit Control Y, it switches back to Preview mode, and you can see the lag in the redraw. Control Y again for Outline, and then back to Preview mode. Now this is just one way of changing the view inside Illustrator, but you can see how it'll be useful, especially when you have a complex file like we're looking at right now. I'm going to go back up to the View menu and choose Fit in Window, and you'll find yourself using this command quite a bit in Illustrator. The keyboard command for this is, of course, Control-0, as it is in many other programs. And it basically reduces or enlarges your illustration so that it fits entirely within the document window that you're looking at right now. Another way to change your view in Illustrator is to actually use the Zoom tool itself. Now, we got a preview of this just a second ago as I zoomed in, but if I go over to the bottom of the toolbox and I grab the Zoom tool, the little magnifying glass, and click on the photograph of the guitarist down at the bottom panel of my illustration, you can see that with each successive click, it zooms in a little bit more. Now these increments that it zooms in each time I click with the Zoom tool are actually shown in the lower left-hand corner of my document window. There's a pull-down menu down in that corner that shows you the increments that it's zooming in. If I want to, I can go directly to an increment, like 150%, and click on it, and it will take me directly to that zoom percentage. And you'll see, if I go back down here, you'll see that there's also an option for Fit on Screen. So instead of using the previous command, I can do that. I can also zoom all the way from 3.13% all the way up to 6,400% in Illustrator. But if you don't see the view depth percentage that you want to be seeing your document at in this list, you can always go in and select the number inside that field and punch in an in-between value, like 117% in this case. The percent sign is unnecessary. If you type it in, I just typed in 117, I can hit return or enter to go directly to that zoom percentage. Now, once I've chosen to use the zoom tool by clicking just to zoom in, I can zoom back out also by holding down the Alt key. The Alt key changes the icon to a magnifying glass with a minus sign in it and allows me to zoom back out. But you can see that this can be very time consuming. Click, click, click to zoom in, click, click, click to zoom out. If I grab the zoom tool, I'm going to show you a quick and easy way of magnifying what you see on your screen. With the zoom tool, I'm going to draw a box around the head of the guitarist. And you'll see that when I let up after drawing that box, his head fills the screen. Now you can see that the image is pixelating somewhat because it is a Photoshop image, but at the same time you can see that it enlarged enough. The enlargement percentage is 443.92% here. It enlarged enough so that it fills the screen, and this is a quick and easy way to zoom in on your documents. Now, if I go back to the View menu and I choose Fit in Window, there are other ways that we can zoom in and out in Illustrator file. If you go to the View menu and choose Zoom In, the keyboard command for which is Control+, it zooms in the same set percentage as if you had clicked with the Zoom tool. If I choose Zoom Out, the same is true in reverse. We've already taken a look at Fit in Window, but actual size, View Actual Size, or Control-1, will actually make your document 100% of its original size, which means that you could essentially hold up a work copy right up next to the screen and compare and contrast what's on your screen with what's in the hard copy. The problem with these View commands is they don't allow you to zoom in on a specific area. You'll notice that as I choose Zoom In, it zooms in on the middle of my illustration window. If I want to scroll to a different area, I'm going to have to use a different set of tools. So let's talk quickly about scrolling around the document. I could use the scroll bars on the right and bottom of my illustration window, but you'll see this is a rather slow technique and something that's a little bit harder to control. What I'm going to do instead is I'm going to go and grab the Hand tool. Now the Hand tool is located right next to the Zoom tool at the bottom of the Illustrator toolbox. If I click on the Hand tool, it gives me a hand cursor which I can then click on my illustration with. You'll see it kind of grabs the page and allows me to drag it around the screen to reposition the artwork. So a combination of zooming and scrolling with the Hand tool allows me to get into exactly the location that I want to be in the illustration. It's also true that if I'm using another tool, I'm going to use the Pen tool for an example here. If I've selected another tool and I hold down my space bar, it gives me temporary access to that Hand tool and allows me to drag this illustration around the screen just as if I had gone and chosen the Hand tool. The benefit of this is when I let up on the space bar, it goes back to the tool that I had originally. So again, a combination of the zoom commands and the scrolling commands allow you to get to wherever you want inside the Illustrator file. One last thing, and that is one-stop shopping for all your zooming and scrolling needs. And that's found in the place of the Navigator in Illustrator. If you go to the Window menu and choose Navigator, it's going to open the Navigator panel. The Navigator panel includes a proxy or a smaller version of your file, as well as controls for zooming in and out. Down at the bottom of the panel, you'll see two buttons, one with large mountains, one with small mountains. The large mountains, if you click on them, they'll zoom you further in. The smaller mountains will zoom you out. If you want to zoom in and out a little bit more interactively, you can use the slider that appears between those two buttons. But notice something interesting. There's a red box that appears in the Navigator window. That red box shows you what's currently showing inside your illustration window. And you can tell that by the fact that if you zoom in, the box gets smaller. If you zoom out, the box gets larger. Now we'll come back to that red box in just a second, but if you go over to the left of the slider, what you're going to see is a field just like you see in the lower left-hand corner of your document window that allows you to punch in whatever view depth percentage you want. So I'm going to punch in 200, and again I'm going to hit return, and it will take me to 200%. But remember, I said that the Navigator is a combination of zooming and scrolling all in one location. So after you've zoomed into where you want to be in the document, you can actually click and drag on that red box in the proxy window to scroll around your screen. In this way, the Navigator panel allows you to use both zooming and scrolling to get exactly where you want within your Illustrator document.